Welcome to Night Moves with your host Jack and co-host
Rebecca. Hey everybody.
Alright, so last video we were watching Kill 'Em All and about mosquitoes. I don't like mosquitoes.
And after listening to this, I like them even less than I did before.
I know, but I love how they mutated these mosquitoes and let them out into the wild. So
yeah, and what we don't know yet is, did it actually work?
Yeah, so we actually paused at exactly 11 minutes on our on Radiolab. So we're going to resume. Anything you want to say before we start?
I can't wait to find out if the mutated mosquitoes actually helped reduce the mosquito population. Let's listen.
All right, let's get started.
Terrible time with the disease that the mosquitoes spread there called dengue fever, which can make you
feel as if your bones are breaking.
And it can sometimes cause
bleeding from the eyes or ears.
And in kids, death. Now, they've tried bed nets, they've tried chemicals.
They try everything.
Nothing's worked because in the past decade, what you've seen is cases of dengue going up and up and up.
Yeah.
But in 2011,
they started releasing our males.
All across town, they released these mutant males. And then they waited.
And within about 6 months, they reduced the population of the mosquitoes by 96%.
Wow! 96%?
Yeah, in that town.
Wow!
96%!
That's amazing!
And really amazing, because for us, mosquitoes are just annoying, but for the people in this town, it was spreading a horrible disease. So that's a huge difference for them.
That's terrible, but it worked. Bleeding to the eyes and the ears and feeling like your bones are breaking doesn't sound like the best fever.
We're so lucky to be here.
I know. Alright, so let's keep listening.
So in 6 months, you've pretty much eliminated the mosquito population.
And this wasn't just some one-off thing, because the next year, after the rainy season,
instead of seeing that massive explosion of mosquito numbers, which you get every single year, you didn't see any increase at all.
Wow.
Because there wasn't a population there to build up.
And this is just the beginning.
In Brazil, there's been a series of trials.
In a bunch of different places.
They're all over 90%.
As in 90% of the population was killed in the first round. And they've released them in different parts of the Cayman Islands.
And again, that was the same idea. We had over 90% reduction.
They're starting their first trials in Panama. They're in talks with local government officials in India, Malaysia, and the USA.
Yeah.
Can we just think about what would the world look like without mosquitoes?
I mean,
it would be perfect without mosquitoes.
But what I think they're going to tell us, and maybe they won't, is that there are lots and lots of birds and animals, probably birds and bats mostly, that feed off of mosquitoes, and that those populations might be in trouble if the mosquito population went away. Do you think?
But they'd find something else.
You think the bats would find something else to eat?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't want mosquitoes here. I don't like mosquitoes. I don't like them.
Well, I think this might be what they're about to tell us.
Well,
so let's listen.
I hope they get rid of them.
Let's see what they have to say.
All right.
California, there's hardly any mosquitoes there. It would be like California everywhere. Huh. That would be totally awesome.
Oh, that's
right?
That's going to be my camp slogan. Kill them all. It'll be like California everywhere. Sonia Shaw.
I just want to point out, like both of you are acting like the only thing that happens with these animals is they make humans, and particularly human children, sick.
It's not them, it's the parasite.
Right.
But they're the ones they're the ones who are spreading it. And so if our idea is you stop the mosquito, you stop the malaria, then
you might stop a few other things. That's all I'm saying. Call David, please, because you know David? Just call David.
So we did. That's a really good mosquito impression, actually.
Is that David?
That's
David. Oh, we called David.
I'm David Quammen. I'm a science writer based in Bozeman, Montana.
He's actually been on the show a bunch.
And what I slapped was not a mosquito.
But the reason that Robert wanted us to call him this time is because a long, long time ago,
Many years ago.
David wrote an article for Outside Magazine
Titled Sympathy for the Devil.
that wrestled with the following question.
What, if anything, are the redeeming merits of the mosquito? All the harm that they do, all the disease that they cause, these critters have a lot to answer for. But is that the whole story? Should we therefore dismiss them?
Or destroy them.
Or destroy them, or eradicate them?
Did you come up with things to say about this?
Well, wasn't easy, but I did, yeah. I read, and...
And while he read, he said he did turn up some interesting facts. For example, there is this mosquito that lives up in the Arctic.
Aedes nigripes.
Which,
pollinates Arctic orchids and spreads no disease to anybody.
Which is nice. But then David made the following argument.
Because of their pestiferous disease vectoring...
Pestiferous disease vectoring. Whoa.
They have made...
Pestiferous disease. What did they say? Vectoring. Pestiferous disease vectoring.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I could explain that
I know.
to you.
Hey, I need to talk to you for a second. We'll be right back. Alright, we're back. Sorry. And let's resume.
Made tropical forest very, very difficult for humans to inhabit, to colonize over the last 10,000 years.
Because every time that we would try and go into those forests, we would get swarmed by mosquitoes and we'd run away.
And therefore, they have played an important role in bringing those forests forward relatively intact into the 20th and 21st centuries. The Amazon forest, the Congo forest, the forests of Borneo, the forests of Southeast Asia. If there were no difficulties, diseases, threats to the people living in those forests, then those forests would have been turned into settlements, cities, farmlands, much more extensively and much earlier than they have been and are now being. I call them nature's Viet Cong because they are the resistance fighters on behalf of the rainforest.
Well, why don't we make it harder for you? Why don't we make you imagine that it's springtime or early summer in Alaska, that there's tundra melting everywhere, that there are hordes and hordes and clouds of mosquitoes, and they're forming a permanent sort of cloud around you. And then Andy Mills comes up and offers you the opportunity to eliminate them completely from the planet. And he makes this offer as they are stabbing you in the wrist, face, cheek, and ear. You would do what? Say,
I would do these two things. First, I would unzip the mosquito net of the tent, and I would say, Andy, for God's sake, let's have this conversation in the tent. And we would jump in the tent, zip that thing, and then maybe spend about 10 minutes killing every mosquito that got into the tent with us. I admit that.
Okay, that's
now
good.
I'd say, okay, now, Andy, we can think about this clearly. And one of the things I'd say was, well, look, if we're up here, just two humans in the middle of this Alaskan tundra, and there are these millions and millions of mosquitoes swarming around us to get our blood, obviously we're a small factor on this landscape, and they're a big factor in some way. So if we were to press a button and eradicate them instantly, it's very difficult to know their load-bearing significance in the ecosystem because they're playing lots of different roles as parasites, as competitors, as prey.
But
See, that's kind of what I was saying, is there'd be all kinds of repercussions that you wouldn't even know about. Like terrible, we could upset a whole lot of things going on in the ecosystem if we stopped, if we all of a sudden there were no mosquitoes. But what he was saying, that I think is kind of cool, is that the mosquitoes have protected the wilderness a lot and jungles a lot, because if it were easy to get into all of those places probably we'd have already destroyed them all. We'd probably just all be living in jungles right now if it were easier, but the mosquitoes are what beat us out of there.
Pretty smart.
Yeah, I thought so too. Very interesting.
Again, please visit WNIC.org for some Radio Lab if you like this. And yeah. Please visit nightmoves.org for more podcasts and information. Thank you. Alright, so let's resume this. Yeah. Yep.
But one of the things that Sonia Shaw told me is that they actually don't play a big role in the ecosystem.
I mean, I really tried hard when I was writing this book to get a mosquito biologist to explain to me that mosquitoes were useful in their habitats, that they had some sort of ecological role to play that was important. And no one would admit that they had any role at all. They say they're not a useful nutrition for bats or fish or any of the other like predators of mosquitoes because their biomass is so small that those creatures would be fine without mosquitoes. Like everyone would be fine without mosquitoes.
She might be right about that, but that's not the only ecological dimension we're
Isn't that funny? Because I just said that, but then she's like, nah, nobody can really tell us what would happen. It doesn't seem like they're very ecologically important.
We're pretty far done. Yeah, we're 1752 into 2131. So we're pretty close. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please visit nightmoves.org for more podcasts and information. Alright, so we're gonna resume and listen to the end of it. So let's go.
Let's go.
Let's jump in the portal.
Start it.
talking about. That does
what
not
other dimension
prove
might there be as a for example?
Competition. They might be competing with other insects, and if you eliminate the mosquitoes, then suddenly filaria flies become much more abundant.
Oh.
I mean, when you talk about trying to foresee the consequences of completely eradicating any one species, we just don't know.
The real deep thought here is, if you're going to destroy, the only obligation you owe to yourself is to know what you're killing.
Absolutely. And by that I mean, yes, to know absolutely the dimensions, the implications of what you're doing.
And what I'm weighing on here, Kwame, is that I too have been to some of these sub-Saharan parts of Africa, and I just was floored that we have a curable disease, and how many 12, 13, 14-year-old kids were hauled up in this ward,
I agree with you that that's urgently compelling and important, and I feel the same way, that something needs to be done, and it's true to some extent.
In the end, after all the debate, I've ended up at this kind of middle ground.
Well, I think what we'll aim to do, actually...
Hayden Perry put it to me like this: we don't have to kill them all everywhere. And in fact, maybe we shouldn't. But we can kill them where we live.
Eliminate them in our major urban cities and towns, that they no longer pose a threat.
We can draw a line and say, you know what, you stay out in the woods, we'll stay here, because the diseases that they're spreading, they will go away if the mosquito goes away for long enough. Because if we get better, like in America, we don't get malaria, hardly ever.
I'm glad we don't get malaria.
Yeah, malaria really is an awful disease. We are so lucky to live here. It's can you imagine living somewhere like Africa where there are so many diseases that people get so easily? We are really, really lucky. We're lucky that when we talk about mosquitoes, all we're talking about is them being annoying. We're not talking about them killing us.
please visit for our Radiolab podcasts, not ours, but Radiolab podcasts. Please visit, or you know what, that's not it. Hold on. I'll be right back. Please visit Radiolab.org for more good podcasts that we've been listening to. You'll be able to see all of their good podcasts, like 9-Volt Nirvana, whatever that says, Things and the Skull, and plenty more. It is really cool to look at. Radiolab. Alright, so let's listen to the rest.
Because there's no one with malaria that a mosquito would bite and then give that malaria to someone else. We have a ton of Anopheles mosquitoes, and we have less than 1,000 cases of malaria a year. Almost all those cases are somebody like myself who gets sick in Africa, comes back here. And why is that? Because we hit zero. Well, I mean, close to zero in our cities and towns. Once people stopped having malaria here, mosquitoes stopped getting it and giving it to other people. You just got to hit zero for a while.
You know, we just have to kind of police the boundary a little bit better. The mosquitoes can still do their thing. We can do our thing.
So you don't hate them anymore is what you're saying.
I think there's a way to live harmoniously with the mosquitoes. I mean, we do it in this country, right? I mean, we have mosquitoes and we control their populations in many ways, but we also get bit.
Special thanks to Andy Mills, of course, who learned bug tolerance through Radiolab.
Also, a very special thanks to David Baker, who went above and beyond in the pursuit of mutant mosquitoes. And thanks also, big thanks to writer Sonia Shaw, and to you guys for listening. I'm Jad Abumrad.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
See you next time.
This is Eric.
And Rebecca.
And we're calling from St. Croix,
in the U.S. Virgin Islands,
where we just sailed down from Savannah, Georgia,
in an 88-year-old Grand Banks Gloucester fishing schooner.
So, I guess that's the end of Radiolab.
And what do you think? Should we kill them all, Jack? What did you decide at the end of that?
We should kill them all.
I hate to say this, but I agree.
Alright, so it's the end of the episode, and we're gonna decide for the last 2 minutes to just, because it's almost, the duration is about, exactly 18 minutes, so we're just going to, talk about what, I don't know, just gonna talk about stories.
We're just gonna talk.
I'm just gonna talk about stories and stuff.
So, when Daddy went to the Boundary Waters with Uncle Dave, he said the mosquitoes were so bad. He said even in the tent with the mosquito netting up where the mosquitoes couldn't get in the tent, he said you could hear it. You could just hear bzzz. He said it was like a cloud of mosquitoes, and you could hear them and feel them outside the tent.
I couldn't imagine that.
No, he said they just had to cover themselves in DEET constantly. That doesn't sound like a fun trip to me. They do it every year, though. Or they did it every year for a while. I can't imagine.
Doesn't seem very fun.
So you vote that we should just kill all the mosquitoes in the whole world if we could?
Of course.
Really? You wouldn't want any left?
None.
I kind of agree with what they said, that we should probably kill them in the big major cities, and we should start in places like Africa and Central America where they kill people. And then we just leave them in the jungle.
Alright, since it's our second podcast, let's tell the craziest story ever. That's ever happened to us. The craziest thing ever.
Well, you know what, people? We're going to make that wait for next time. Suspense for podcast number 3.
We got
time.
We got a cliffhanger.
It's a cliffhanger.
It's 1953. And we're going to sign off at 20. So this is Jack.
And this is Rebecca.
And this is Night Moves.